Welcome back to Dead Time Gaming. I am AsaSwift, and this is Delirium. It's been a while. Shall we check the settings? Ooh, resolution. No, that won't do. There we go. Oh, no. That's not right. Looks like we can't go that way. Even though it's checked. Well, maybe it will change. Textual quality. Oh, no. Ultra high. Yeah, apparently we can't go to 3040. Why they have it listed and you can't go that way? I don't know. Video sync. No, we'll leave it alone. Full screen. Full of course. Do we dare? Yes, I say we dare. Samar was pecking at his bowl of grapes. He was trying to summon the courage to say something, but I was grateful that he had yet to find it. I spoke up. I am a patient who knows his ailment, its cause, and its severity. There is nothing to mull over. When a single rotten grape begins to spoil the whole basket, then it's wise to throw the rot away before it spoils the rest. I am that grape. Samar was taken aback by my bluntness. He lowered the grape away from his mouth. You know, what, is this a goddamn novel? Apparently we have to read this thing. Anyway. He lowered the grape away from his mouth, looking at it as if he actually did see my face in it. He wanted to console me and say sweet, comforting things, but he saw that I was in no mood for that. I continued, knowing that I needed to quicken this rendezvous if I wanted to start my journey soon. My only worry is that I'm leaving you with too much of my own burden. It seems rather unfair to me. Samar was quick to rest my doubts with pride in his eyes. Don't you worry about that for a second. Your children are like my own. I'll look after them just like you did. Samar went on about his assurances, and my mind started to wander. My eyes were scanning the cafe we were sitting in. They fixed on a note plastered on the wall, calling for help. It read, calling. That word sent a shiver down my spine, like a cold, sharp whip against the flesh. Samar's voice was fading into the ether, and I felt myself falling away, far away. I was in my dream again, a deep black sea, and I was drowning. The black bottomless pit was leaping up to grab me, falling, drowning, deeper and deeper I went until the loud blaring of the smoke alarm brought me back to the present, and I found that Samar was still talking about the same thing. How long was I gone for? Samar continued on, unaware of my slip. They wouldn't miss their father. I mean, there would be. I'm happy to hear that, Samar. I cut Samar off, feeling guilty for a moment, but there was simply no time. I had to hurry. I had no doubt that Samar meant what he was saying. He was a man of words and honor since that first day I saved him. He pledged me his life and hasn't deterred from that oath since then. My respect for him has only grown since as he proved to be more than a brother to me over the years. If it wasn't for that, I would not have dared to do what I was doing now. I have no doubt that you will be a loving father to them. They'll lead a normal life, and I'll find peace in my last years, knowing that I have given them a chance at better life. No one deserves to see their loved one turn into a stranger, and I want to shield them from this agony sooner than later. Besides that, they are young. Soon they'll forget my face and look at you as their true father. It was still a very hard thing to say, no matter how resolute I pretended to be. He smiled a sad smile at those words and looked down at the grapes, still searching for something appropriate to say to that. My concern is more about you, he finally sighed and spoke, his eyes still digging the floor. I couldn't tell him where I was going. It would undo all that I was doing, and small bubbles of doubt were already forming within my mind about my plan. I need to act before my mind changes. I stood up and spoke before Samar would ask me about the address. It's getting late. By the time I'll be out of this city, it'll be dark. I need as much light as I can get on the road. Samar followed and stood up after me. He gave me assurances and bid me farewell. He wanted to say more, but kept his silence. The journey ahead of me was long and arduous, and the sun was already slipping beneath the horizon, leaving streaks of pink hues across the sky. I parted with Samar and went on my way, my mind fixed on the secluded house I was heading towards. I was hoping with all my heart that the house would welcome me and mend my broken spirit with its serenity and the solitude it'd provide me. I was leaving the city behind and hoped that I was leaving my sorrows with it. Well, now, that's a cheery tome, isn't it? Let's go in, shall we? Night opened up its dark wings to spread across the horizon and covered everything with a thick, choking fog. It's been a long time since my heart was warmed by the sunshine, and it feels like it's just as dark outside as it is in my heart. How many nights has it been? Too many to recall. Seems like it has been a long time since I left the city, as if this has been my only home. This is where I have always lived. A shiver went down my spine, but I tried to ignore the feeling. Somehow each night seems to be bleaker than the last, and it's spreading inside this house, pouring in through this broken window like a charcoal black snake slithering its way inside. I tell myself that this comforts me. The darkness and the silence soothes my senses. But I can't deny the feeling that some terror lurks in these dead woods, watching me, waiting. It's just a fantasy made up by your old broken brain. The bulbs need changing, that's all it is, I reassured myself. The terrace bulb needs its casing repaired. One day it'll fall and give me a heart attack. When there is such deep silence, a whisper sounds like a shriek, and a smashing bulb would make an awful lot of noise. The stillness in this place has made me jumpy. That's all. I'm acting like a child. But why are there no stars in the sky? Where are they hiding? Did someone put them out like 1,000 flickering candles? Maybe it's all an imagination of my old frail mind. I guess it's time to pick up my tools again. Carving wood and molding clay soothes my mind and hones my thinking. It will take my mind off this darkness. And I can't be careless with my medicine any longer. The shaking and the paranoia. It's all due to an irregularity in taking my pills. This is it. It's not the house or the woods playing tricks. It's me. My loneliness and grief has turned everything around me sorrowful and sinister. Whereas the rustling of leaves in the wind sounded like a sweet song of nature before, now it sounds like old dead beings whispering underneath their breath. The darkness used to feel comforting before. Now it seems alive, engulfing everything that has warmth and life. Such a sweet, sweet story. Lore and mystical history of nuns. I went to Catholic school. I don't remember any such mystery. There was lore, but no mystery. What say you, darkness? I was working past midnight yesterday, as I often do, when I heard a loud blast of thunder, which pulled me out of my work. The crash was so loud that I was certain it was right over my roof. Every time it roared, a blaze of stinging pain struck my mind and I started to feel dizzy. My head began to ache like it was being split in two. Soon after, my vision started to blur and I panicked a little. I comforted myself by saying that this is the result of overworking and undereating. I feel frail, old, and burdened with grief. There used to be a heart beating in my chest, but now there is just emptiness. Am I filling the void with this constant sculpting? Is it just to distract myself from my grief? I knew the answer to this. The words couldn't come to my lips, but they were clear in my mind. I miss them. I couldn't go back to work after this. My heart was sinking and my head felt dizzy. I need some air, I told myself. I stood up carefully, went out of the study room and into the lounge. What I saw at the door froze me and made me forget about my headache and worries. A dark silhouette formed in the corridor, barely visible in the light of the fire from the hearth. "Who's there?" I heard myself asking. "It's just a shadow on the wall," I thought. My sleep-deprived brain is deceiving my eyes, surely. I rubbed my eyes but didn't take a step forward. When I looked again, the shadow was still there, but took a more clear form. It's the nun. My newest sculpt. I had spent months carefully crafting every little detail while sculpting her. When I had finished, I immediately knew that it was my masterpiece. I had even made a glass case to store her in. She will outlive me. I wanted her to be my legacy. I was proud of her, but until today, I never feared her. I did now. She stood in the dark corridor, intently staring at me. Her body was almost one with the darkness, but her bulbous white eyes were visible even in the dark. Lidless eyes, pouring fear into my heart. Unblinking and intent. And alive. "No, it's all in your head. Wake up!" The voice jolted me and brought me my courage and senses back to me, slowly. Did I put her here last night in my distraction and haste? I've been awfully forgetful lately. This could be my own doing. I must have left it here while I was moving her from my study room. I comforted myself and took a deep breath of relief. I looked back at the corridor and saw nothing. She stood clear as a day just a moment ago, but now there was nothing. "No!" A weak groan left my mouth. It hardly sounded like words. I took a step forward and then another and finally stood at the spot where I saw her. There was nothing there but darkness. A void of terror stood there, and nothing else. Are my eyes playing tricks on me, or this house? A trick of the mind, that's all, I told myself. I have not slept for the last 2 days. What should I expect? The notion should have given me comfort before I realized in that moment that the terror is not confined to my nightmares anymore. Have I started dreaming with my eyes open now? If my waking dreams are like this, then I pray that my sleep is dreamless. But how could I sleep after this? Sleep had left me just like laughter and happiness had. I truly felt alone now. Next day, I summoned enough courage and locked her in the room with the red door. Dream or hallucination, putting her in the locked room eased my mind. And that's the red door. IEX, whatever that is. Passcode required. H. That's an H. E. X. Hex. No, it's a number. Has to be a number. Okay, why don't we have we don't have the dot anymore. That's strange. No code there, can't read anything. I have weighed my dilemma and quantified my options. I thought perhaps writing them down would make the decision easy, but it didn't. On the one hand, the city life would bring me close to my family again. I'll see them smile again. Their laughter would erase all the memories, worries from my mind. On the other hand, this house will bring me creative fulfillment and peace and a place to live out my sorry existence away from everyone's mockery. But I can't. This house is foul. It has a mind of its own and it's playing tricks on me to drive me mad with every passing second. I feel the gnarled fingers come out from the walls and strangling me in my sleep. In the mirror, I saw red marks on my neck this morning. Could they be just mosquito bites? They look strangely like fingers. I have noticed myself scratching wildly in the night. Is this my own doing? But it wasn't just the marks. It was everything. I was disgusted by my own meekly reflection. The man who stood in the mirror was not me. He was weak and weary. Flesh almost gone from under his skin, and dark circles surrounded his eyes. His face was worn, and he mocked me with his hideous, piercing gaze. I couldn't stand the sight. Suddenly, fury took hold of me, and I smashed the mirror. That wasn't all. Something much worse happened later that day. I had to discard all my pills down the flush. They had changed color, and I saw mouse droppings just inches away from my pills. I had noticed their taste changing, but didn't think much of it. But I saw today that the packaging was tempered. There was a small slit around the holes where the pills laid. Did someone took them out and replace them? Someone's poisoning me. The thought left cold sweat on my forehead, and I shivered with fear. Even if it's just the rats gnawing at them, the risk was too great and the fear greater. I had no choice but to flush the pills down the toilet. I felt safer after that. Later, when I was busy writing my diary, I saw a big rat scurrying its way around my bookshelf. Was this the same rat that caused me so much trouble? I was furious and wanted to kill it there. It would have been satisfying killing this pest and seeing its blood pooling out from its infested body. I could have bit through its flesh and see it scream. The thought gave me delight for a moment before shame took over my mind. I was repulsed at my thoughts. I noticed that I was holding my pencil in my fist, raging at that hideous, scheming rat. The pencil broke in my fist, and suddenly my rage was gone. I was left with confusion and shame. What am I becoming? What is this place doing to me? I was disgusted by my own behavior and knew I had to get out. This house isn't safe. It's pushing me to something. It's changing me. I felt that I had made a terrible decision coming here, and with each passing day, it was getting worse. With each day, the realization became clear that staying here was Folly. I could go back to the city and start again. I might even see my children again in Samar. What is the point of living here alone, away from all those I love? I would never see my children grow. I would never hear their laughter again. Is it even worth living like this? The faces of my sons floated in front of my eyes, their eyes beaming with laughter and innocence. Are you living your life fully, my children? Do you chase fireflies at night and dream of sun-kissed meadows and laughter? I hope you do. My own nights are brimming with terror, and my dreams are laced with fear. Perhaps I should go and check the red door. Oh, that's the original entrance. Passcode required. How about 666? Apparently I didn't think that was funny. That's okay. Let's go see what's out here. A wall. An overturned chair. Sorted bushes. And a ladder. But we can't go up the ladder. Or so it would seem. No. And beyond. Will we be able to find our way back? Whoever's following along, get out your GPS. Ooh, another tome. You're crazy, Timmy had said, others soon joining him. Laughter erupted from every mouth, and I saw fingers pointing at me, pointing and laughing. It went on for a long time that day, and many days after that. I cried endlessly and felt sorry for myself, but that was a long time ago. I laugh at that now. Being called an insane was less offensive and more disappointing. It's that typical oversimplification and labeling of anything deviant and strange. Society's go-to word to categorize anyone or anything different. I have long stopped dwelling over it. I have changed. I can imagine the mockery if they were to see me chewing on this rat's meat. Their voices would be malicious, but it's hatred in their eyes which I despise the most. They would call me a cannibal rodent, feeding on his own kind. I need to stop thinking about them. It's all in the past now. And suddenly Irene's face appeared in front of me. Are you laughing too? Like Timmy and all the rest? You find me repulsive too? She didn't answer, but the thought was too much to bear. I found my eyes suddenly filled with tears. Just cry, old man. This is what you do best. Cry and die. You can do that much at least. It'll all be over and I might see Irene again. She awaits me on the other side. I would see her beautiful face again. And what if you do see her? Do you think she would welcome you into her embrace? The bitter voice was filling my head again. Fool! You are a crazy old man who has lost his wits. Save me, she asked as she lay on that bed. And did I? It was too much to think about. I choked back my tears as I stood near this old bench, unable to take a single step forward. I can't leave. I am the culprit, and this house is my prison. I deserve this. This house is not my enemy. It's my retribution. I turned back to face the house. My feet started moving on their own, and I found myself walking back to the house. The house is waiting for me. It's calling me. Besides, there's nothing but ridicule waiting for me in the city. Timmy and all the rest. Full of hatred and mockery. There is safety here. I belong here. The darkness in the house doesn't scare me. It soothes me. It protects me. How wrong was I for ever thinking of leaving this place? The stench I thought was coming from the basement doesn't worry me either. I have in fact grown to like the smell. It has a sweet, mysterious aroma. It gives me strength and a sense of bond with this house. I can't believe I was ever repulsed at the thought of eating the rat. I looked in its small eyes when I bit into its flesh. It was perhaps scared of me, but I couldn't see any fear in its eyes. What I saw instead was far more fulfilling. I saw the life flickering away from its eyes, and with every bite I felt stronger. I was absorbing life, and that feeling gave me strength, making me feel so ecstatic. I was feeding on life itself. I just felt so alive. The joy of this notion took over me, and I chuckled with excitement. Suddenly a brilliant thought came to my mind. I should set up traps in the house. There must be so many rats around in these fields. The thought made me more excited than I have ever been in my life. I saw a flicker of hope within the darkest dungeons of my mind, and for the first time in a long time I slept peacefully that night without any nightmares. I welcomed this new beginning with open arms. What a wonderful story. Any rats? Any rats? But we can go no further. Barely read it. The bell rings, rings, rings. The blood drips, drips, drips. The clock tick, tick, ticks. The bell ring, ring, rings. The blood drip, drip, drips. The clock, the bell, the blood. Well, the clock has numbers, doesn't it? Let's see. Am I trapped now? $3.50. Perhaps it opens. Already read that one. Apparently there's one more. Let's see. Military time. 1550. No. Wonder if I can get that torch. I mean, what is the point of the torch being out there? Can I pick it up? Apparently not. You'd think there'd be code up here, but that's all blurry and you can't read any of it. Same here. Can't turn on the lights. What is that? Oh, it's TV. And what is the significance of this? That's a trap door. Strange that we can come all the way back out here. There's a number. $73.18. Or some variation of that. 3718. Yes.
He's discovering that, so Am I hearing footsteps?
What a beautiful carving. So
You are
attractive.
real. Then answer me this. Would you save me? I thought so. You can't save me. You can't face the fear.
She is gone. I told you she was alive. $15.50. Oh, and the time changes, doesn't it? No code hints.
Guys, they watch me all the time.
Excuse me. Didn't hit the button. So let's see. What are those carvings? Can't do anything with it. $37.18. That was the first one. The room before was this. Can't read any of that. Whatever it is. So If the code was in this room, I'd like to know what's in this hall. Any flashlight? No, no flashlight. But the thing is, there's two codes. Or two code rooms in the same room. And all those diaries have pages. That's too many numbers. I don't think it's that. It's a different code. But where do we find it? Let's check the books again real quick as we go, and we'll see. Just page 1, page 3, 5, 4, 7, 9, 10. There's more numbers right there than. And there was no numbers mentioned in the book. No, no numbers mentioned in the book. See if there was any numbers mentioned in this one. Other than the pages. No. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's already. Yeah, that's not it. And there's no numbers mentioned. It's just feelings. Nothing more than feelings. Trying to forget. Oh, well, I'll go somewhere else. Ooh, what's this? I missed this one. Or did I? Yeah. Heavens to Murgatroyd. We don't want to do that. God only knows what could or could not happen. Irene gave me this stunning old brazen vase. It used to sit here on the hearth, where now only a faint stain lies. One day it was here, and then the next it was gone, without a trace, just like she did. But her vanishing was my own doing. I drove her to that. I am to blame for her fate, and for everything else. It feels too long ago, and even the memory is starting to fade. And her name, too. After a long time, I had uttered her name today. Her memory will wash away slowly, but the guilt won't. This vase was or vase, whichever you prefer, was the last tether to her memory. And now that's gone too, having taken with it all of my warmth leaving me bare, cold, loveless. All its emotional value put aside, the vase was a thing of beauty, and a marvel to behold, too. It was a rare thing that Irene had bought from a strange trader traveling from Innsmouth. Wonder why that's in bold. Innsmouth. The vase had a slimy, glossy texture, an ancient, crude design, but when shown under the light, the material would come to life with bursting colors, as if it was absorbing the energy of light and slowly coming to life. It felt as though in a few minutes under the light, the surface would crack open and something strange and unknown would be born out of this strange egg. Yet I never kept it exposed to light for too long, as it would become unbearably hot to touch and I was afraid it would break. I inquired Irene about the trader's origin and his destination, but she had not asked him many questions about his whereabouts. She tried to locate him afterwards, but he vanished completely, as if he never existed, and the vase itself proved to be unlike anything in the records of local library. Its origin remained unknown, and its ambiguity and craftsmanship led us to a lot of interest from potential wealthy buyers. She, however, never wanted to part with it, no matter how much it would sell for. When she told me about the trader, I knew she must have misheard, or the trader was a con man who lied about his origin. Because Innsmouth was a fictional place with no real-world trace. Either the trader was a madman who had fancied that he had contacted an ancient race born with God's blood, or he had just lied to sell his wares. I chose to believe the latter. However, my mind has expanded to a lot of hidden realities of the world since I have moved here. Could it be that the trader was speaking the truth? If so, then the misfortune of losing it stings even worse. As strange as it sounds, but the absence of that vase has left me feeling more alone than I had felt in this house before. I'm starting to realize how far away from any human being I am. The notion sent a shiver down my spine. If something happens, no one will come to my help. I am truly and utterly alone, with nothing but death to accompany me. I can smell it. It smells cold and ancient. I started to trace the origins of the smell and found that it's coming from the basement, a pungent and hideous stench of decay slowly rising from underneath the basement door. Something behind this door is dead. Something, I told myself, and heard a voice inside me saying that it's someone. But no matter what happens, I will never step into the basement. Not again. Well, well, well. Irene, perhaps? But there was nothing there as far as a clue goes, was there? Although this is a certain clue of some kind. It's got to be. The clock ticks. The bell rings. The blood drips. Oh, here's a clue. Perhaps we'll find it now. Can I get the torch? I think that's what maybe I'm supposed to take that now? Take one of these? Or I'm supposed to take the torch? Am I supposed to take the torch? Let me go see. No. Isn't that strange that it's just there, burning? You can't take it. And it really serves no purpose. Nevertheless, we shall proceed into the darkness. Whereupon I will say, where the fuck do I go? And you will say, do you have to curse all the fucking time? And I will say, fuck yes. Ooh, what do we have here? Oh, no, never mind. That was upstairs. Okay, this is useless. As far as I know, I'm up against the wall, and it kind of sounds like it, doesn't it? What are we missing? What are we missing? Missing anything in here? Is the nun in the basement?
Smell her absence in the air. It doesn't have that rotten stagnation anymore.
Just speak up a little bit louder so I can understand what it is you're trying to point out. Perhaps we need to go back outside to see if anything has changed out there as well. You would think that's what these candles are for to take to light down there. But you can't get one. Strange that it just goes into darkness and nothing more. Nothing seems to change out here. License plate on the back of this thing that you can read? No. I was hoping that perhaps that would be a number. We've already been through these. Let's make sure that there's no numbers in this. No. Just page numbers. They all have that, one extent or another. Can I crouch? Not control. Not C. Not a Nazi. Not C. see what's over this way. Doesn't appear as anything's changed over here. I'm not sure what the point of this was. I mean, really, what did we accomplish when we came out here? Other than reading the book. We didn't read a book when we came out here. We can't get that. Can't go up the ladder. Why is the ladder there? I think we'd be able to open some drawers or something. No numbers on these books to papers say what might be a code. I just think it's interesting that spells hex, H-E-X. Nothing but darkness everywhere. Yet the clock continues to change time. Oh, sorry, military time. 16:15. $16.17. We'll try that. No, I don't think it has to do with the clock. What is that on the floor? Why can't I get that? It says none. Is that a different diary? And why can't I get it? You got nothing to say to me now. What is the point of that clock? But it changes time. Apparently it keeps real time. But if that's changing constantly, can't be the code. Why does the dot show up on this old TV? Yet can't turn it on. Oh. Wow. The prison of life and bondage of grief are one and the same. Before the onset of death, how can man expect to be free of grief? Believe. Yeah, that's true. One of my greatest fears, grief. I'd rather be involved in a shootout than that. Hmm. Now, how would I have normally seen that? Look, just that. That's it. How many people miss that? All of them? Hmm. Out of breeding that change anything? Doubt it. Still black and nothing. Still closed. Not sure what the armoire is for in here. Shall I shut this down? I can't help but think that there's some kind of light source that you're supposed to have to go down there. Oh, can't get it from there. Maybe I need to close these. Maybe that's it. Great numbers in there with there. Other than page numbers. I'm gonna get the pen. What about this? Is there any code in here of any kind? It's just crazy. Why would this open? Why would this open if there was nothing else to do? I just went in a circle. Oh. Wow. Okay. 12th October 1998. Her eyes were milky white, so pale and sensitive. A bright ray of light would make them bloodshot, and she would instantly go into such convulsive seizures that every time they occurred, I was afraid they would push her over. But still she persisted on, brave and strong. She was fighting, but for how long? I had mostly started living down here with her in the dark. The light of the sun alone would send her into a frenzy. Even in the shade, but this dark, dingy basement seemed to soothe her. It took me a long time to adjust to the darkness, and I suffered countless bruises. and stubbed toes, but they were nothing compared to what she was going through. End it, the voice would demand, but I would ignore it. Just thinking about it had left me feeling guilty. Save me, Irene asked me many nights ago, and I promised that I would, but I didn't know how. I couldn't take her to a hospital. She had forbidden it, and we both knew why. But what chance did I have here? I'm alone and unskilled. But I promised, and I intended to fulfill that promise. There was no doubt that she had gotten better since I brought her down here, but better is a relative term. It only meant that her violent outbursts had been fewer and periods of unconsciousness much longer. I would show her pictures of our wedding and read her the letters we had sent each other before we were married. She always loved those and would read them often before. But that was a long time ago. Even the memory of it was fading. I knew she used to smile, but that was a distant memory now, too. I would never have believed, looking at her now, that these lips had ever smiled or laughed or kissed. She would often lie still and motionless with her eyes peeled to the ceiling, and many times it sent me into a rush of panic and fear. Only when I would hear a faint beating heart in her sunken, weak chest that I knew that she still lived. End it. A faint voice echoed in my mind again. I brushed the voice away and caressed Irene's swollen belly. She still fights for them. She will not let go till she does her duty. She had loved nothing more than the thought of being a mother, and she is fighting death to fulfill that wish. I planted a gentle kiss on her veined forehead and left her in the room to come out for study. When I had reached the door, I thought I heard a faint sigh and my feet froze. I turned back to see, but it was nothing. She was lying as still as ever, becoming part of her lifeless surrounding. But that night, when I heard a sudden shrill scream piercing through the silence, I knew it was truly her. It was happening. Her water broke and everything spun in motion. It all seemed too surreal to make sense of or panic. The next few hours ran past us in a hurry amidst the screams, panic, and blood. When all was done, I could not help but feel distance from my own body. Everything seemed like a dream. But one thing was certain. Tonight, in our house, there were 2 more hearts beating. She gave me 2 sons, and with it, she gave me 2 reasons to keep on fighting. And for that, I was more grateful than ever. I went back to see her, and I wanted to hug her, kiss her, and console her. We were a family, and this was the beginning of our new life. We could make this work. I smiled as I approached her with the life in my hands which she bore. Look, Irene, I whispered gently, as not to shock her. You have made me the richest man in the world. My words seemed to stir life in her eyes, or maybe it was the gentle crying of our baby, which had woken all the maternal senses in her. She slowly turned towards us, and for that instant, I saw the Irene I had always loved. She was smiling, for the first time in what seemed like forever. Tears came rushing to my eyes, and I wanted nothing but to live in this single moment for the rest of my life. I captured this moment in camera to frame it. That moment of bliss didn't last long. It passed as soon as it came. And the beautiful dream turned into a grotesque nightmare which would last forever. The smile was gone from her face in an instant, and what I saw instead was something ugly and cruel. She raised her hands and dug them deep into the soft flesh of our son. It happened so quickly that all I could do was watch before the crying of the baby filled the room and jolted into action. She was looking at us with rage of unknown proportions and was leaping from her bed towards us. The sight of her movement would have sent waves of ecstasy to my mind any other day, but now they only sent shivers of fear and repulsion. End it. A voice was screaming in my mind again, but I was frozen, too stunned and horrified to do anything. I promised that I would save her. I protested to myself weakly. End it. And so I did. I failed to uphold my promise. I failed at being a husband. It's all gone. I took the life of the one I loved the most. By what right should I continue to live on? The grief was so overwhelming that I momentarily decided to end my life and stop this misery. And I almost did before reason took over me. I would have happily died to be with Irene once again if I was alone, but I am not alone. I now have 2 sons, and for their sake, I will live. Not here, though. Not in this house. I'm leaving this place and moving to the city with my sons. They will have a better life there, and I might be able to forget this day too. If time is kind to me, I will forget this terrible night, as impossible as that may be. I hope to never set foot in this place again, because I know what will happen if I ever return to this house again. Oops. There was no code down there. Something quite remarkable and utterly bewildering happened today. I was greeted by a visitor today. The ringing of the bell startled me, and for a long time I was too timid to go to the door. And Initially, I imagined it to be a mere fancy of my brain. If I was seeing things already, hearing things wouldn't be out of place either. But the sound wasn't muffled and subdued enough to be my imagination. It was a sharp and punchy sound. So if it was indeed real, then who could it be? Is it Timmy and his gang of bullies who have finally chased me here? To even here in this remote, secluded place so they can berate and mock me? For a long time, I didn't move. Just listened to the sound of the bell. Then I managed to peek through the curtains and saw a tall, thin man with an old turban over his head. Normally, I would have avoided meeting anyone, but my strange, reoccurring nightmares of the past few nights left me slightly frightful of my prolonged periods of loneliness, and I decided to welcome the company of a saner being, even for a brief period. While I was making up my mind, he finally got bored of waiting and started to leave when I went and greeted him at the door. His features were foreign to me, too foreign to locate any particular geographical region I was aware of. When he spoke, his accent was thick and guttural. He spoke English well, but it took concentration to decipher his accent. After a short conversation, he told me he was a trader, and he was told that I would be interested in some of his unique wares. I'm not sure how he came to know that I took interest in occult and mystic, but he was right, and I was glad that he came. The trader showed me what he had, and my eyes instantly fell on this strange tiara. He was reluctant to talk about it and said it wasn't for sale. I knew he was a cunning trader who smelled my interest in the item and decided to poke me with a show of reluctance, so I would become more persistent. After much haggling and convincing, and the revelation of how much money I was ready to give for this tiara, he finally loosened his tongue and talked to me about the item, regaling me with how it came into his possession. The remarkable tiara was fashioned with a striking design and filled with meticulous detail, but it's the strangeness of the metal which astounded me the most. Even in darkness, it shone vividly, and its sparkle didn't seem to be dependent upon much on the light for reflection. Perhaps it was some trickery of some metal alloy coating, but I couldn't deny its appeal nonetheless. The seller went on to explain the details of its origin, which sounded a bit hocus-pocus to me. He mentioned an esoteric order of Dagon, and went on about a town overrun by some mutant hybrid species who have crafted some truly remarkable and utterly alien objects using their secret knowledge. I listened, but paid not much attention to it. It was not that I wasn't aware of this order of Dagon. My interest in occult had introduced me to this name before. I recalled reading about it in one of Lovecraft's tales and through some other research. I came to believe that such an order did truly exist, and I was fascinated with finding its whereabouts for a long time. But I didn't share my knowledge with this man. His version of the tale was full of contradictions and fallacies, and he also mentioned some other places which he had picked from Necronomicon, and was having me believe that he had seen all those places. But I didn't believe much of what he said, but I couldn't deny that the conversation did renew my dormant interest in occult, and at that moment, I decided that I will resume my research on this matter once more. The thought put a smile on my face. Whether he was deliberately lying or just a credulous man, it didn't matter. I was enjoying the company of an interesting human being who had no interest in mocking or ridiculing me. That was enough for me to listen to his tales for a while. We talked about the tiara on length. It was fascinating to behold due to its unidentifiable components. It was large and elliptical, clearly not meant for a human head. I spent few hours with the man, drank tea, and talked about the strange and bizarre. He was very accepting of strange things, and readily believed when I told him some strange nightmares and hallucinations that I have been having in this house. He was a patient listener with no sign of mockery in his eyes, which made me confide in him more. After he listened to some of the incidents which have happened to me in this house, he said he had something which might help. He refused to come in and take a look at my other collection, including the nun. When I invited him in, he looked frightfully at the house and refused to take a single step inside. So we remained seated outside, and he took a peculiar look across one of his satchel and handed it to me. I'm sorry. So we remained seated outside, and he took a peculiar-looking cross out of his satchel and handed it to me. This will ward off all evil and protect your soul as long as you keep it close to you. When I wanted to pay him for it, he refused to take anything and said it was his gift to me, a token of a deal well struck. I was humbled and thanked him deeply. I was not sure how much this piece of wood would help me, but I was glad to have it nonetheless. It was a few more hours before he decided to take his leave. The sun was hanging low in the horizon, and he started to become uneasy at the thought of staying at my house after dusk. I bid him farewell and thanked him a lot for his generosity and friendliness. He was a rare, friendly person I had encountered in a long, long time, and the whole encounter lifted my spirits tremendously. I locked away this tiara in the cabinet and also put up the lock for the red room too while I was at it. When I thought about what passcode to put it for the red room, the answer came in the shape of my calendar. I have been crossing each day of the month when I have night terrors. Every day except 3 days were all filled with hellish nightmares. 3 unmarked days on the terrace calendar. There couldn't be a better passcode than that, for I wasn't likely to forget it. I'm going to bed with a smile on my face tonight. The meeting with an amiable seller, this beautiful tiara, and the strange cross all contributed to my happiness, and for the first time, I felt safe and at peace. Life could only get better from now, I told myself as I slipped into my bed and welcomed the warm embrace of beautiful dreams. I'd see my family in my dreams tonight. I knew it, and the thought left a smile on my face. Well, now.
Guys, they watch me all the time.
This house is my atonement, and when I draw my last breath, we will be together again. Well, children, did you enjoy that little story? I certainly did. Regardless, whatever you thought of it, please leave a comment down below. If you think I belong in a loony bin, leave that down below as well. I'll be waiting for the men in the white coats. In the meantime, until we meet again, sweet dreams.